Well, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Twickenham, where a few hours ago South Africa beat England, and that's what I'm talking about in this video. I've been in the press conference in the mix zone recording a podcast, so that's the reason that it's taken me a bit of time to get to recording this video, and I haven't made any notes. This is almost, well, not quite off the cuff because the game finished a few hours ago, but as off the cuff as I can be, really. So let me know in the comments section, what did you make of it? From an England fan's point of view, third defeat in a row against a good team. There was some good stuff in the game, but where are you with this team? And from a Springboks point of view, certainly not your best performance, a bit like what we saw against Scotland, but you had enough to get the job done. Put it in the comment section, like the video as well whilst you're here, and don't forget, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. So I want to start with England, and I saw Ugo Monye and Courtney Laws on the TNT coverage over here having a chat about this, of are England in crisis? Where are you in relation to that question? I don't think England are quite in a crisis yet, because I think in all three matches we have seen some good stuff, even though we've seen the frailties of this team and the reasons they're not able to get over the line and beat these sides at the moment. But I think we are seeing that there's still elements that they're a good team, and they are a team that are capable of winning these games. So therefore I don't think they're quite in a crisis. And I suppose off the back of that, how much pressure do you think Steve Borthwick should be under? Again, I'll be honest, and I feel like I might be in the minority here. I'm in the camp that it is the correct decision to stick with him. I think he is a good coach. I think the disruption to the coaching staff in the summer has had a big impact. And I think we've seen that this autumn. Now, Borthwick has to shoulder some of the blame for that, but nonetheless, I think that is a reason for the fact that this is an England team that are more disjointed than what we saw previously. And I think that maybe gets us to a bit of the crux of the issue with this England team, which was a point, actually, I mentioned I was doing a podcast, that is the Ruck podcast from the Times and the Sunday Times. Do get it, that will be up relatively shortly, probably slightly after this video. But Alex Lowe on that podcast made the point that England in the summer, at the end of that tour of New Zealand, yes, they'd lost both test matches. Yes, there was a sense of frustration that they hadn't got themselves over the line, but you knew what the identity of that team was in terms of the blitz defence, and you could see that they were a much better attacking threat than they had been previously at the start of this year. Ultimately, you knew where this England team was trying to get to. Can you still say that now, after 3 games this autumn, about the England team? I think it is a team that has gone backwards, and I would still trust in Borthwick for the time being to get them moving forward again. But he is certainly under a lot of pressure, and the Six Nations now for England becomes absolutely massive. They have to perform, I think, in that Six Nations. Wider speaking, I'll tell you what, if you want to get onto the game that was here today, one of my biggest frustrations actually was, I look at 3 of the Springbok tries. If I'm looking at it from an England point of view, they got charged down twice for the Pieter-Steph du Toit try. They missed a pretty relatively straightforward tackle on Grant Williams for him to break through. Don't get me wrong, the sidestep on Freddie Stewart afterwards to score the try was ridiculous. He's such a good athlete. And then they also miss a pretty simple one-up tackle on Dialende for Kolbe's second try. So it's not a game where I'm looking at it and saying, well, England's attacking structure is just not good enough, or their defensive structure is just not good enough. Like, those are basic errors by players that should know better. And I think that's the funny thing with England. We have seen a whole mix, like a pick-a-mix sweets bag of a performance throughout this autumn. Different things have been the issue in different games. The overriding problem for England is they're dropping off in games. And I think fitness is clearly an issue. They scored 3 points in the second half. I know they had the Henry Slade try disallowed, but they are dropping away. I don't think their fitness is good enough at the moment. And I think clearly their bench is simply not having anywhere near enough of an impact. And I think what we've seen is this is a team massively in transition. I think, with no notes, that's kind of my top level thoughts on where England are. I'll tell you what, let's get on to South Africa and the Springboks. Because it's not coincidence, is it? I've said it so many times on the channel with this South African team. If we want to go back to the World Cup, 1 point win quarter-final, 1 point win semi, 1 point win World Cup final. This is a team that knows how to win tight games. And importantly now, I think what we're seeing this year, this is a team that knows how to win when they're not at their best. they weren't that great today in some areas. We saw some brilliant moments, we saw some great individual performances, and you know I'm getting on to have a chat about Cheslin Kolbe in just a second. But they're winning without playing their best. They're winning with rotating their team. Like, there's the prevailing sentiment in international rugby for a long time is that you need continuity, you need combinations that have played together. And don't get me wrong, the Springboks still have some of that, like Creel and Diolende have played together loads, I think more than any centre pairing in South African history. Obviously, that front row, there's continuity there. But they're making a lot of changes between test matches. They're almost going against the grain of what you're supposed to do. They're changing their team quite a lot. That was premeditated before this game. They picked a team for Scotland with in mind the team that they would pick for England today. And that, I think, is just so impressive. I think the whole way they use the group. Like Wilco Louw playing today, that's the 50th player South Africa have used this year. Like, that's incredible. And for them to be as good as they are is just absolutely sensational, I thought. And let's get on to Cheslin Kolbe. I mean, the bloke's ridiculous. There was a lot of chat before this game of the aerial battle and the fact that England had brought Freddie Stewart in. And Freddie Stewart's really good in the air, and I thought he settled into the game. He had a little bit of a shaky start, but overall, he was really good in the air again. But Cheslin Kolbe is incredibly good in the air, despite his size. I don't need to say about what he can do with ball in hand, because we know how dangerous he is. He packs a punch in defence, like, given his size, he absolutely goes around banging people. Plus, he's got a really good kicking game, not to mention the fact that for the World Cup final, he was potentially going to be the scrum half if they got an injury, or we've seen him throw in at line-outs before. We've seen him take conversions. Like, he is one of the most all-round rugby players in the world, and I thought today he was absolutely outstanding. Watching him live, I've seen him live before, I thought this was the best performance I've seen from him. He's ridiculous. He was absolutely incredible. I'm going to leave it there because I haven't had too many notes, so I might do a more considered video tomorrow if I get time. But comment down below, what do you make of it? What do you make of the performance of the Springboks? Maybe not their best, but they got the win, so you're laughing. And from England fans, are they in crisis? Do you disagree with me? Do you think there should be a change in the coaching box at the moment? I don't think there should yet, but you can let me know. Comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.